Welcome back to my cabin, lovely YouTube people. My name is Myrion and today I'm going to be looking at our GPZ500 front brakes. The front brakes on this are working, but I need to change the fluid. So while I'm changing the fluid, I'm going to drain it all out and then I'll show you how to bleed it through then and put the new fluid in. Okay, so without further ado, let's get on with it. Okay, so we're going to bleed the fluid out. So the first thing we need to do, we need to take our master cylinder cap off. These screws are notoriously difficult to remove, but there we are, that's one. Came off quite easily. And then this one comes off as easy as the last one. And there we are. Oh, there we are. That was quite good. Sometimes you've got the best thing to do is to if the head is just destroyed, because these could just go rusty. They sat in there and they get covered in the weather. So sometimes it's the easiest thing to do is to just drill the head off it. When you take the cap off, then you can turn what's left of the thread with the pliers or pipe grips. It's okay. Let me get a little box. So we're going to pull these off, and the rubber diaphragm. We're going to pull this out as well. And then, to be honest with you, the fluid isn't that bad. Try not to get the brake fluid over any of the paintwork on your bike. It doesn't matter on this one, but if you've got a brand new bike, make sure that you cover all this. Make sure you don't get brake fluid over any of your paintwork, because the paint, and if you do, clean it off straight away, otherwise the brake fluid will just burn the paint off basically. As you can see, there's a bit brown in there, so it's been in there 5 to 6 years that I know of, so I wanted to change it. I think in the service manual it says to change your front brake fluid every 5 years, I believe it is, so it needs to be done. Alright, what I'm going to do now, excuse me, right, what I'm going to do now is undo the bleed screw. So to undo the bleed screw, it's always better to use the ring end of your spanner, because it doesn't destroy the hexagon. If it's tight, it is better to use an hexagon one, but I got this 12.1 at the moment, so we'll try this first. You don't want to round it really, so we're going to put this ring spanner on it and then put the pipe on the bleed screw, and then we're going to see if we can just, there we are, and there we are, that's our bleed screw. Undone. Make sure the pipe don't come off. Okay, now we're going to pull the front brake lever in. As you can see, the fluid is coming down. So what we want to do really is get as much as the old fluid out through the bottom as we can. We'll just keep pulling it. There's nothing left in the master cylinder now. As you can see, it's just flowing out now. There's all the bubbles in the pipe. Can you see the bubbles in the pipe? Let's zoom in, is it? There we are, you can see the bubbles in the pipe there. So that's all the fluid drained out. Now that all the old fluid have come out to the bottom, I'm going to get some of this blue roll and I'm going to soak up the old stuff and clean the bottom of, you can see the gunk in there. Yeah, there we are. Going to clean all of that stuff out of there. As you can see, there's all like black sludge in the bottom. Right, okay, so we're going to clean that as well as we possibly can. There's a bit. There, looking at that, it's like the paint, like a silver paint on this. I don't know if that's from factory or whether, but it's like the paint in the bottom. The brake fluid have kind of removed it. I don't know. There we are. As you can see, that's a lot better now, a lot cleaner. Clean it up as best we can. So there we are. As you can see, that's a lot better. Okay, that's that step. Now what I'm going to do, I've still got the brake bleed nipple. I've still got that undone. So I'm going to put some fresh brake fluid in, some fresh clean stuff. Just put a bit in. Probably half full, I expect. And what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to pull our brake lever in and just flush some of this clean stuff through until it goes down. I just want the new stuff to flush through, really. Although it's just sucking back. It's sucking back in at the bottom. If you can see as I'm doing it, it's pushing it out and then sucking it back up. So what I need to do now, I think, is to bleed it. The first thing I'm going to do then is I'm just going to nip up the bleed screw, and I'm gonna just pump my brake lever slowly. I'm just gonna pump it. To be honest with you, that's quite stiff. Anyway, it's not coming all the way back. I think the fluid has gone down. I think the fluid has gone down and filled it up anyway. So okay, and now I'm going to bleed it now out of the bottom. So we're gonna loosen the bleed screw off, pull your brake lever in, and then nip it up, and then leave your brake lever out. At this point, I've said it on one of my previous videos, but at this point it's important to keep an eye on your brake fluid level. The last thing you want is for the brake fluid level to drop below the bottom of your reservoir, because if it does, you'll introduce more air into the system, and then you'll have to bleed that right through it again. So just one thing to note is that these motorbikes, they take .4 brake fluid. Someone asked me a question about mineral oil and brake fluid. You never use mineral oil. I've never come across a motorbike with mineral oil in it anyway. I have seen the push bikes, mountain bike push bikes, that use the mineral oil. You must never put mineral oil in a .4 system, and vice versa. Don't put .4 in a mineral oil system. It will just eat away the seals and you won't have any brakes. So it's important to check which brake fluid, whatever it is you are doing, check which fluid it uses. Like I say, I haven't come across a mineral oil, motorbike, certainly not a modern one that I've worked on. So .4, it usually says on the lid, so let's just check that a second. It usually says on the lid, and there it is. It says use only, sorry I wasn't focused. It says use only .4 brake fluid. Use only .4 brake fluid from a sealed container. Clean the filler cap before removing. There we are. You clean the filler cap before you remove it, so make sure that no mud or dirt drops into your brake cylinder, and because the holes in the master cylinder are tiny and they will get blocked if you get any mud in there. So they say clean this cap and all around it before you take it off. Certainly on the rear one for dirt bikes, it's always covered in mud after a ride, so don't just take it off. You've got to make sure it's all clean all the way around. Okay, now we have the clean fluid in our master cylinder. To be honest with you, our brakes are pretty good as it is now. I am going to bleed it through. Some people will tell you that these are self-bleeding, but what they mean by that is when you are working the brake lever and moving the fluid, then bubbles will rise to the top. If you've just got it, I mean, people will tell you to cable tie your brake lever in and leave it like that overnight. But what I have found, honestly, is that the brake lever has actually got to be actuated, and then the bubbles will rise to the top. But obviously, it's not. You got to sort of keep doing this for hours. So as long as your brakes, like I say, that's not coming all the way back now. As long as your brakes are stiff, then it will bleed itself. But you will have to check your brake fluid level. You know, I would check it every day after you've done it, just in case the level drops. So what we want to do, like I say, is we're going to undo our bleed screw, and then we're going to pull our lever in, and as you can see, the brake fluid is coming out and there's still some bubbles in there. So while we are holding the brake lever in, I need to nip up the bleed screw. So pull in your brake lever, nip up your bleed screw, release the brake lever, and then just keep repeating that. So I'm going to open up the bleed screw, pull the lever in, and then tighten the bleed screw again. Release your brake lever, open the bleed screw, pull the lever in. Now you want to keep doing that until you don't see any bubbles coming out through your pipe. I mean, you can see there's little bubbles in this, but I think they're rising back up. They find the top, the highest point. So when the bubbles stop coming out through this way, then you know that there's no bubbles in the system, or there shouldn't be. Remember, always remember to keep checking your master cylinder reservoir, because again, if that drops below the level, you'll introduce air into the system again. So we're just going to top that up, and then we're going to repeat the process. So because I'm changing the brake fluid, I do want to flush it through. Because I'm changing the brake fluid, I want to flush it through, so make sure that the clean brake fluid has flushed all the dirty brake fluid through. So I'm going to keep going a minute, slacken it off, brake lever in, tighten it up. Release the brake lever, slacken it off, brake lever in, and tighten it up. Slacken it off. I know it's repetitive, but keep going. Brake lever's in now, so tighten it back up. Release your brake lever. Undo. Pull your brake lever in. Nip it back up. Okay, we're only nipping it each time. We'll tighten it with the ring once we've made sure that everything's okay. So I'm happy now that there are no bubbles coming out through our bleed screw. It's just clean brake fluid now coming out. It's clean in the pipe. So I'm happy now that that's okay. Okay, so that's our brake bled and the fluid changed. As you can see, the brake lever's only coming back as far as that. If your brake lever is still coming back to the handlebars, then you need to keep going. And if you keep bleeding it and bleeding it, and the brake lever is still coming back to the handlebars, then there's either still air in there. On some of the dirt bikes it can be difficult to bleed, but usually if it doesn't work straight away, or you know, there's either a leak on your system and you need to check for leaks, or the master cylinder seals in the piston in here can be worn and be bypassing. They're quite easy to change. You take the brake lever off, there's a circlip then inside here, and just remove the circlip, pull the piston out. The kits nowadays come with master cylinders, comes with the piston, sorry, so you don't even have to change the seals on the piston, you just put the new one in, and that's not too difficult to do. You need just check that there's, so as you can see, there's no bubbles now coming up through those holes. If the bubbles coming up through these holes, then there's still air in the system. Although, like I said, because it's self-bleeding, there could still be bubbles in the actual brake line, and they will find their way to the top because it's self-bleeding, and they'll come out. So every day for the next week or so, every ride you do, you know, 5 or 6 times, I would just check the level of your brake fluid. But this, the fact that it's only coming back this far on the handlebars, means that the brakes are very stiff, and the probability is that there's no air in the system. So that's good, that's our job done. Now I'm just going to remove this pipe that we've got on our bleed nipple. I'm going to lift the end up just to drain all the brake fluid out of it. And then using the ring end of our ring spanner, I'm going to tighten our bleed screw up. So there we are. And that's our brake bleeding job finished. Always make sure you put the cap back on your brake fluid in between and at the end, because brake fluid actually attracts moisture and absorbs it, and then next time you come to use it, you'll introduce water into your brake system, so you don't want to do that. And that's the end of our front brake bleeding fluid change video. If there's anything else you'd like to see me do, please leave a comment below, and I'll try and get it. I'm going to keep on, I want to get this GPZ running, and then I'm going to sell it on to do one of our other projects. So if you like the video, if you've enjoyed anything that I've showed you, or if you've learnt anything new, please hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps me out a great deal. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.